Welcome back, everyone. For a lot of us, Super Bowl weekend usually means some parties and drinking. And, of course, your game plan should always include a designated driver. But if you're hosting a party for the big game, here's a scenario. You're serving alcohol and someone at your party is hurt. Who's to blame? Is the homeowner who was serving alcohol responsible in any way? Well, Jacksonville defense attorney Randy Reep is here to answer that question. It's an interesting topic, Randy. A lot of people throw parties this weekend. You know, New Year's, it could be another holiday. What kind of responsibility do you have for the people who are at your party drinking?
We're talking specifically about the legal responsibility, not maybe the moral or ethical.
Right.
But generally in Florida, there is not a social host responsibility in general. Sort of the personal responsibility of you drinking the alcohol, if, for example, is your responsibility, and what you do if you're intoxicated is sort of on you, regardless of whether I provide it to you. There are two major exceptions and maybe a third exception to that, and one is if you, in our scenario, were under 21, my providing you the alcohol now becomes the reason maybe that the injury, DUI or an accident or something like that happened. And the other one is a business context. If I'm having people over to my house as part of a business event, it may be a Super Bowl party, but maybe you're in sales. If you're sort of working for me while at the party and you get intoxicated, well, suddenly I may have some responsibility as it relates to that.
Now, this topic varies from state to state, but in Florida, what you're saying is that there is no liability if it's just a general party with adults.
In general, there's no liability.
In general. Well, what does that mean?
Well, there are exceptions. I mean, I'm a personal injury attorney as well, and I'm always going to try to find a carved-out exception if I have a client come in and say, hey, I was hurt. If I find maybe a situation where you're serving alcohol to somebody under 21, I'll be able to get some traction there. If in a business context I can show you're the employee of the host of the party and you're doing something within the scope of your business, maybe now all of a sudden you buy some liability. And the third exception is kind of even on that sort of moral ethical issue is if you have somebody at your party so intoxicated, you almost take responsibility for them because they're out of it. Mm-hmm. For the classic example is you can't leave a passed out drunk person laying next to the pool. They rolling in the pool drowning is sort of very foreseeable, and you have some responsibility there to protect your guests from injuring themselves. That's an obscure exception, but those are why I say, in general, there's no liability, but there's always exceptions to every rule.
Right. Liability insurance for a homeowner. What kind of insurance do you recommend that you get?
There's liquor liability insurance that you can actually purchase as a homeowner who's going to have a party. You might say, well, that may be expensive. It very well may be. That's one of the mitigation factors we recommend to our clients. Another thing you can do is make sure you hire trained bartenders. You're sort of extending yourself from the liability there. People sometimes say to me, well, that's expensive. I say, well, if you see me on the other side of a lawsuit, that's quite expensive. So that's our recommendation. You can buy specific party insurance. You can have an umbrella coverage to protect you in general. That's probably a good idea anyway to protect you from different types of liability.
Those coverages generally cost, not too much. They're usually about $100, $200 a year. I mean, it's something that it won't break your bank.
That's the umbrella policy.
Yeah, the umbrella policy, right.
And it depends on how much you're insuring, and all those factors change. If you want to buy for like a specific event, that kind of coverage, it be in that range as well for the price for that one party, but I would suggest to you that or hiring designated drivers, maybe having an on-call taxi service that maybe you even pay for, that's a lot cheaper in the long run than having one of your friends or loved ones get injured, and two, the liability that could happen with those exceptions that I mentioned.
Yeah, and having to go to battle with you.
Exactly.
In a courtroom. All right, Randy, thank you so much. Good information.